Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 154, featuring Connective Trek. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I'm the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we might just have our most experimental topic ever on TrekRanks. Tonight we're doing a show called Connective Trek, and honestly, I'm not even sure how to describe this one. The quick gist of it is that each of our panelists tonight are picking a topic or a theme and spinning a narrative by connecting one episode to the next from 5 to 4 to 3 to 1 and just completing their connective trek that they're weaving. So whatever this theme or story is. So this one's going to be a little bit different. And joining us for this unique show are two awesome guests from the UK sector, and actually two of our TrekRanks favorites who they only live a few blocks from one another, which is just crazy to me. So first up, returning for his 6th TrekRanks appearance, it is Trek Twitter's reigning wordsmith. It's the boss of the wordster. It's Mr. Ross Webster. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you very much. Hello, how are you?
I am very good. I like that. I came up with boss of the wordster, Ross Webster.
I like the Ross rhymes with boss. It works nicely on many levels.
That's what we're doing. Okay. And our second guest tonight made his TrekRanks debut on episode 124, the top 5 episodes to make you feel like a kid again. And Michael is back for round 2 with a yarn to spin tonight on Connective Trek. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, Jim. Hi, Ross. And thank you so much for inviting me again. I love this topic, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great show. All right, let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration.
You can recalibrate the regulators now.
Will do.
Okay, the TrekRanks Charter has 2 clauses. 1, we rank Trek so we can have a fun conversation about Star Trek. And 2, the ranks don't matter. We just use them as our framework to help drive a deep dive conversation about all the things we love about Trek.
But what is that Vulcan motto? Infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
And what is diversity? A celebration of differences.
Because as DePaul and Dr. Floss just said, TrekRanks is just a celebration of differences. There are no wrong answers here. This show is all about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all from TOS to TNG, straight through the Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, now Discovery, Picard, Strange New World, Short Treks, Lower Decks, and Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through the end of Star Trek Prodigy's first season, episode Supernova Part 2, which is the 873rd episode of Star Trek across the past 56 years. And one final reminder that we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well. Thank you, Mr. Worf. You can hail me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. We're on Mastodon too now, whatever that means. And you can see our extensive rankings of all the Treks at TrekRanks.com. And don't forget to leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, Ross and Michael, let everyone know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Ross.
Hello, so I am also on Trek Twitter at STRTIK1701. And as Jim says, also on Mastodon at Taborg. So you can find me there.
Okay. I love it. Michael, how about you, man?
Yeah, I am still hanging around on Twitter, and I'm at Michael Angie. So MICHAEL. ANGIE.
Perfect. 2 great Star Trek follows. I love it. All right. This week, we're going to skip our diagnostic cycle and get straight into our unique prime directives, because the prime directives this week's really going to help describe exactly what each of us are doing on this episode.
Do they know about Prime Directive? They know everything I know, sir.
And you're about to know everything we know about our prime directives. So I will start quickly by saying that Michael and I went through a bunch of different permutations on this topic, and it started with this idea of like a 6 degrees of separation, like the Kevin Bacon game type topic. I was trying to work that out, but as we got into it, that wasn't really working. So we morphed into this idea of everyone basically choosing their own theme or topic and coming up with a narrative in the TrekRanks format that connects from one episode to the next and kind of hits their theme from number 5 to number 1. So that literally could mean anything. So Ross, going to start with you. What can you tell us about your picks and your theme without giving too much away?
Okay, so first of all, this was incredibly hard to do. And I've probably written at least 5 full lists, completely different lists about all sorts of different things.
Amazing.
I have narrowed it down to something which is really personally very close to my heart. So I'm really interested in the topic, and it's something that exists outside of Star Trek, and I've sort of used Star Trek to demonstrate the links in this sort of sequence, which I'm very interested in, and how it breaks down sometimes. So you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's amazing. All right, that's I cannot wait to see how this all plays out. Okay, Michael, how about you, man? How do you talk about your theme?
Yeah, I actually came up with my number 1 pick first before my prime directive. So when I knew that I was going to be working backwards from number 1, I kind of realized that there was a theme, and so that was my prime directive. And I can't really say it without giving much away. So
yep, that makes sense.
My overarching theme for all 5 of the episodes is they're all about characters evolving themselves to become more than they were or thought they could be.
Okay, I like that.
So that's one of the ubiquitous themes in Star Trek. I mean, it's just like everywhere. And there's just the connections between them are just really random. So, you'll see anyway when I go through them.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's a good little tease for it. So for me, Ross, you said you had 5 lists. I had 4 complete lists compiled, 3 with kind of my same theme that I ended up on. And I'm going to talk about those in the secondary systems. But one I'll use as my example right here. So I was toying with these ideas. I was thinking about I was going to do something like World War III in Star Trek, which is a piece of important Star Trek history that's been addressed, but just in bits and pieces across Trek. So I was thinking about maybe telling that narrative across 5 episodes from one to the next and kind of framing, here's what we really know about World War III. But in the end, I moved away from that idea. And instead, I went with a production theme in my pick. So my theme is really going to have a little bit of this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon separation focus. And I can tell you, I'm going to be talking about guest actors in Trek who have appeared in multiple guest roles. But my goal with every pick and connection is for you to go, seriously? That's the same guy? But the trick for the episode is that I had to connect each episode to another episode with a link from an actor. So if I highlight an actor in pick 5, there has to be someone in that episode who I then connect the episode to pick 4, and there has to be somebody in that episode who I connect to pick 3, and so on and so on. I will keep explaining this as I go because I know no one is understanding.
No, I love this idea. And when we talk about this at the end, I'll tell you another list I've done.
Okay, cool. So we'll see how this works. This is an experimental episode of TrekRanks like no others. But in the end, all that matters is we're going to be talking about 15 episodes or moments in Trek, and that's going to be awesome. So this is going to be a fun time. Okay, let's do it. Third Automaticon, introduce us to the order of things.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Thank you, Third Automaticon. As always, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our first connective Trek choice and set up how it's going to kind of be part of our theme or narrative. And we'll work our way from pick 5 to 1. And this should be fun. So after we get through our 5-round picks, we'll see if anyone has any secondary systems. Like I said, I've got 2 full lists I'm going to run through quickly in addition to my list. So Ross, let's start with you. What's your number 5 pick for your connective Trek that you are weaving?
Okay, 5 words. Bread, the arrive, seen earlier. Hashtag aphasia.
Oh, I know.
Now, this is obviously from Deep Space Nine's Babel, and this episode gets me every time because I absolutely adore the presentation of aphasia on the station, how people's communication is really impaired, And because I'm a speech therapist, so it really interests me to see how people get around it, how they deal with it, how people with communication problems are treated. It's very exciting to see it portrayed, and to see it portrayed in such an interesting fashion. And I just love those 5 words are from Cisco when he contracts the aphasia virus. And that's the first sort of thing he says when you realize, oh, crumbs, he is unable to access the words he wants in order to make himself understood.
Oh, man, this is a great pick. I love that you're going here because I know this is your profession and where you work. I've said this about Babel. I had no idea this was a real thing when I watched Babel the first time when I was, 30 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
It was years before I realized, because I remember watching thinking, this is a little bit of a reach, whatever. The disease episode, I'm okay with it. But now it's one of my go-tos. I love it. I go back to it all the time. I think it's a really engaging episode. And the fact that I've learned more about it through people like you and just being educated more, I love that it's kind of a real thing and it affects people in knowing that.
It's a very stylized portrayal of the actual what happens, but it's so rare to see it portrayed so completely.
Yeah,
because TV is a medium where people speak and they talk and there's lots of sound, and if you can't get those words out, well then is this a silent film or are we doing something different? But to actually show the communication breakdown, I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Michael, what's your take on Babel and this first pick?
Flowered units. I don't know. I always remember that phrase from. When I think of Babel, I just think of O'Brien saying flowered units. I love this pick. I think it is a season 1 episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think season 1 of DS9 is really underrated. I think it's a really good season. And I love this episode as well. And I love it even more that you've gone here, Ross, because I haven't picked the same pick, but one of my picks is going to have a similar theme, very similar theme.
Good.
In a way.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, great start. Let's do it. Michael, jump into your number 5 Connective Trek pick.
Okay, well, this is it. This is the one I mentioned.
Oh, okay.
5 words: science, friendship, and improv. Ready? #Molto Allegro. And that's Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 5, Chrysalis.
Oh.
I know that these genetically enhanced guys get some flack because they're stereotypes, but I just love them anyway, even Jack. I mean, the characters in Chrysalis, they're kind of transhuman, sort of almost verging on superhuman, like Bashir is.
Mm-hmm.
And in Star Trek, creating people with enhanced abilities creates all kinds of dangers and ethical problems. And we've seen that all through Star Trek, even right now with Star Trek Prodigy, with the prejudice against Dal. And here it's caused certain kinds of disabilities. And Serena is disabled in the sense of being locked inside herself and unable to communicate or express herself. But she does have connections and she loves her friends and they love her. And with their belief and Bashir's help, she finally becomes able to express that and experience fully the joy of being alive. But this is really why I picked it. It's just, I just love this moment in Star Trek. It's one of the most joyful musical scenes in Star Trek when they're doing the improv on Do Re Mi.
Right, beautiful.
It makes me wish that DS9 had done a musical episode because that would have been amazing. DS9 and Discovery, I think, were both two good musical episodes. And the joy on Serena's face and seeing Bashir fall in love in real time, because the camera focuses on him a couple of times during the song and you can actually see it happen. You can actually see him falling in love. And I just tear up. And what I love about the music is that the characters' melodic lines, they interweave. And that just kind of expresses the joy of their connectedness. So they're all singing the same tune and the same words or sounds, but they're doing it in different time to each other. And so that's what I mean about my prime directive. Serena's become
evolution,
more than she was or thought she could be, or anyone else thought that she could be.
This is a great pick. I'm glad you said that at the beginning. I defend this episode too, and the portrayal of the augments in this. I mean, I get it where some people have issues with it, but I think people get a little too harsh on it. It's like there's a lot of good things here, a lot of good messages, a lot of good story beats. I kind of get it, but I just when people are picking on it or going on it, I think they're just a little too harsh, because I think there's a lot of value in the portrayals here as well.
Yeah,
Ross,
I get it too. It's just
right.
Can't help loving them.
Yeah, Ross, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean the standout character is very memorable. It's interesting to see the portrayal of a group of people who are not Starfleet and not civilians, but like these are people who still exist in the 24th century and the 23rd century. That there's still people. It may be a utopia, but there are still people who have differences or experience reality differently, and we still have to work with them and live with them and find a place to, like, you know, be together and like live as a society. So it's nice that they even tried to present them on Deep Space Nine, because in season 7 they could have been doing so much different stuff.
Right. Just the fact that they're part of the story is a win in itself.
Yeah.
Yep. Great. Okay. All right. Let's move on. My number 5 pick. Here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. From Endar to a non-believer, hashtag Junior Mintman. So my episode is Suddenly Human from TNG Season 4, Episode 4. And my actor here is Sherman Howard. So Sherman Howard is the captain of Captain Endar of the Talarian vessel. He's the father of Jono in this very underrated episode of TNG, where they find this human boy who's with these Talarians, and Picard has to have kind of a father figure role, and they have to figure out what they're going to do with him, send him back or with the Talarians, or connect him with his family at home. So Sherman Howard, he played 2 other characters in Star Trek. And on my next pick, I'm going to tell you about one of them, just so you're going to hang tight on that. That'll be my connection. But before I do that, I'm going to also bonus this with the fact, because nobody knows this, my hashtag, Junior Mintman. His other big claim to fame, he famously played the character who was an artist that was sick on Seinfeld that George bought some of his art from. And he's the guy who Kramer dropped a junior mint into his body during surgery as they were observing the procedure, which is amazing to me.
Oh, my God.
Captain Endar of the Talarian vessel is the guy who ended up with the junior mint in him from Kramer in Seinfeld. And I'm going to tell you about the other character he plays in my next pick, Connective Trek. Here we go. Any quick take on that, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you could do a whole Seinfeld Star Trek connection, because there is so many.
Oh my God,
people.
I'm adding that to the list right now. So
there's so many people who cross over. I mainlined Seinfeld last year, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Also, what's weird to me is the Talarians have just come back in the most recent Star Trek comics, and Jono is a main character.
Oh, awesome! And
it's suddenly weird, like, having not thought about him for many years, suddenly I'm reading about him, and then now we're talking about him and his dad. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm
telling you, this is an underrated episode people forget about. There's a real dilemma here for the Federation and Picard. And then in the middle of it, Jono stabs Picard. He tries to murder him in his chest with a knife. It's like a shocking moment that I think we kind of forget about. Michael, any quick take on Suddenly Human and Captain Endar?
Yeah, that's a great pick. The Seinfeld connection, I'm afraid, passes me by a bit.
I know a lot of people haven't seen Seinfeld.
No, I mean, I feel ashamed. I've never ever seen a single episode, but it makes sense that there'd be a lot of actors in common because they were on at the same time. You're right. This is an episode that kind of gets forgotten, and I think that the decision that Picard makes at the end is it's really surprising, because up until
that's
that
another
point,
thing about it. Yes.
Up until that point, you've been thinking like, oh no, they can't possibly take this boy away to this abusive culture, and he's got to go back home to his grandmother, or
of course,
can't remember it's his grandmother. Yep. This is only about 2 episodes after the Best of Both Worlds, I think, or 3 episodes. I think he's been through all this trauma with the Borg. He's had a fight with his brother, and now he's getting stabbed.
Yeah, so true, so true. You really think he's going back to Admiral Rosa and Earth, and then at the end it's like, no, it's the really right choice is to keep him with you. It's a good episode. It really is underrated. So
yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Round 4. Ross, continue your connective trek.
Okay. So that now we found the words we want to say. Bear that in mind.
Yes.
Now we've got to say them. All caps. There is one flashing light. Hashtag beep. Hashtag beep beep. The original series, The Menagerie.
Oh,
Even if you know what you want to say, you must have the means of saying it. You must have the means of expressing yourself physically. And one of the most difficult aspects of Pike's condition in The Menagerie is that his intellect is still as fast and as sharp as ever, but his communication is limited to very small yes and no questions and the beeps. So that relies on the person speaking to phrase everything in such a way that a yes and no response can be given. And that's so hard to do. It's hard to do on the fly. It's hard to do with people who are struggling to speak, especially when you're talking about so many different things or complicated things. To distill an idea into a yes and no question is complicated. And they do it in the original series. And I'm pleased to see that Spock and Kirk both make the effort to make that change in the way they're communicating, because there's nothing else for it. And just on a personal note, when I first started as a speech therapist, one of the first slides I ever got up was a picture of Captain Pike. I think it was the first slide in my first lecture. And it was a picture of Captain Pike. And the lecturer said, "Does anyone know who this is?" And I was the only person who put my hand up. and I knew where they were going. Alternative and augmentative communication, it's far into the future. It's the 23rd century. But actually, his communication is so limited. All he can do is flash that light. And we've got to do all the work for him. So you can see where this is going in the communication chain.
I love it. What a pick. I love that, too. You didn't tell the whole story. Does anybody know who this is? You raised your hand and went, beep. Okay.
The joke could have been totally lost on everyone apart from the lecturer.
Amazing. Okay, I see where you're going on this. I love this pick. I love the Menagerie more than life itself. It's all-time great Trek. Michael, what's your quick take here?
I just love this because I suppose a lot of people are really saying this. It just has so much more impact now with what we know about Pike now, and that Pike, knowing that Pike before this happened, knew what was going to happen to him, or at least the worst of what was going to happen to him. Didn't know perhaps how things would end up finally. And particularly in the very last episode that we've had of Strange New Worlds, when that moment between Pike and Spock, that moment of understanding or sort of semi-understanding. But also you just reminded me, Ross, when you're talking about, having to have the words to communicate and being a speech therapist, because about 8.5 years ago, my partner was in ICU. She was in there for a long time and she had a tracheostomy, so she couldn't speak. And I'm just remembering first of all, how difficult it was for me trying to lip read, but also
absolutely.
But also how incredibly frustrated she was getting at not being able to be understood
completely.
And I guess that I think she did have a speech therapist come in later on. But I didn't know about speech therapy at the time, and I just kind of see it differently now. Incredibly impactful. I mean, because I just think the Menagerie, it's a really good episode of Star Trek: The Original Series, and I would think that, and think that's just another really good episode of the original series.
The last time I watched it, it still caught me by surprise that the Admiral was not real.
Oh, yeah.
Every time he's not real.
Disappears. Every time it surprises me.
And now it's so much more than that, and that's what New Trek does so brilliantly. Partly is just it connects again, Connective Trek. It connects everything. It gives the past a deeper meaning. Episodes that we've known for 30, 40, 50 years, and now it has a deeper meaning than it had then. It's great.
I was very keen to pick perhaps a new episode, like a Strange New Worlds episode, or a Discovery episode to focus on Pike. But I thought it's the classic Menagerie. That's when he first appeared, so I went for it.
How incredible is it that I get chills thinking that we're still seeing this story now unfold in Strange New Worlds. Absolutely incredible. And by the way, I just had a thought when you mentioned Commodore Mendez. We might see Commodore Mendez in Strange New Worlds. That could easily happen. Oh my God. That would blow my mind. Okay. Michael, what's your number 4 pick?
Okay, 5 words. Synthetic life form meets augment fanboy. Hashtag the android's dream. The random connection here is Bashir and his genetic augmentation. The episode is TNG Season 6, Episode 16, Birthright Part 1.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. How did I not figure that out from your 5 words?
Bashir is fascinated by Data. He asks if his hair grows. He notices that he breathes and has a pulse. All these things that people don't normally notice. His Data says, like, most people just want to know about his more extraordinary abilities. And Bashir says, well, your creator went to a great deal of trouble to make you seem human. I find that fascinating. And I think, again, this makes even more sense several seasons later, because once you've learned about Bashir's augmentation, because he spent his life trying to hide the truth and blend in, trying to hide the truth that he's different. In my headcanon, he kind of identifies with Data being human-made, because to a lesser extent, he kind of is himself. And most people, including Data, see Data as different, and Bashir is attracted to how similar he seems. But that's just a random connection.
Wow. Yeah.
How it fits with my Prime Directive is that Data develops further in this episode as a sentient being.
Yeah, clearly.
When Sung's dream program is activated. And that has what for me is just like one of the most unique and strange and beautiful scenes in the whole of TNG. Sung is always a bit weird. We see the bridges, we've never seen it before, with Spot in the captain's chair where he should be.
Yeah.
And then you get the climax of Data's dream where he's the Raven and he's flying through the corridor, through the ceiling, through the hull of the ship, and kind of like swooping around the outside of the Enterprise. And that's preceded by Sung saying, Data, you are the bird. And I get chills. It's just an amazing scene. I love that.
Oh, it's so good. Such an underrated episode. And this is like the moment where Data actually becomes more than what he's been and that he's been striving for. This is where he actually gets some of it. It's incredible. I love it. I love the connection. Love this evolution theme and this developing beyond what you thought you were capable of. Fantastic. Ross, what's your take on Birthright? I've picked it a few times recently on TrekRanks. I think it's so good.
So I think the connection is phenomenal. I really love the link between Bashir and the augmentation, and then the growth, and you can see where you're going, and sort of maybe guess what a few other episodes might be in your links. I also love that actually this episode's a connection as well between TNG and Deep Space Nine, because when I was younger and I was watching this was like a little bit of mind blowing for me. Like they are the same. They're in the same universe. These things cross over. And I mean, this is the kind of thing I lived for when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. And I still love it now.
I mean, one of the biggest crossovers ever, other than, of course, the launch of Deep Space Nine with the Enterprise there. Sorry, Michael, what were you saying?
I was just going to say it's DS9 in HD.
Yes, it is.
Right. And it's the moment we get DS9 in HD. I love it. Okay. Fantastic. Let's go to my round 4 pick. From Narette to Shuttle Conductor, hashtag Klingons Connect. This is Voyager Season 7, Episode 14, Episode Prophecy. And Sherman Howard, here we are again, Sherman Howard, who played Endar. He is Tigreth, the Klingon, who challenges Tom Paris to a fight to the death because he didn't believe that Torres and Paris's child was the savior. And of course he ends up catching the Narette, and the doctor saves him because of cells from Torres's unborn child. So he does become the savior of the Klingons. Pretty cool character. So here we go. Sherman Howard has now played Endar, and he also played Tigreth, the Klingon from Prophecy. So that's my connection. Hopefully that's a surprise to you that those are the same actor. But now here's the connection. So there's a this is my link to the next episode. So the captain of the generational Klingon ship, he is a fantastic actor. He just chews the scenery in this episode. He's Kolar, the ship's captain. He's the true believer in the Kuvama. And this actor's name is Ren T. Brown. And in my next pick, I've got a very cool connection for him. He has played one other character on Trek, and I'm going to talk about him in my next Connective Trek pick. But for now, we got these two Klingon buddies, Tigreth and Kolar. Ross, what's your take on Sherman Howard and this episode of Prophecy?
I feel like I'm learning something here. I did not know that they were the same actor. Didn't know that at all. And then actually having you now link this to another episode, I feel like this is it. Should I already know this? I have no idea who Ren T. Brown plays. Who else he plays? I've got no idea.
We're gonna keep going. Ren T. Brown one. I can't wait. This one's so good.
I don't know.
Don't Google it, people.
No.
Don't Google it. Wait until I get to it.
I ain't looking.
Michael, any quick take on Prophecy?
Yeah, I like this episode. I like episodes of Voyager where there's some connection to the Alpha Quadrant. So when you see that Klingon ship, in the middle of Voyager, it's just like I think it's the final season. It's like I like the episode in season 1 with the micro wormhole and where they meet the Romulan, who's played by Admiral Forrest.
Yeah,
forgotten his name.
Vaughn Armstrong.
That's right, Vaughn Armstrong. And I love Pathfinder and all the ones with Troy and Barclay.
All those connections.
So I love those connections, and this is an episode I haven't seen in quite a while, but it makes me want to watch it again.
Yeah, when that D7 shows up, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
so cool. Okay.
Why don't you try the soup instead?
Let's do it. Let's go to the soup round 3 of Connective Trek. Ross, connect some Trek.
Okay, so once you can speak, you got to actually say those words. Bear this in mind. Transfer treatment triggers tongue trouble. #Dysarthria. This is the scene from Star Trek 2009 where Kirk is being injected by McCoy with some, I think it's Melvarin mud fleas.
Oh, no!
And he's trying to explain to Uhura that the lightning is something he knows about, but he can't speak because his tongue is swelling up and his hands are swelling up. Now, it's not, he's struggling to get the words out because his tongue is so big and so swollen, he can't move it anymore. And so even if you can speak, you've got to make sure those words come out really clearly or people won't be able to understand what you're saying. And that he's trying to tell them something important and they're like, we haven't got time to figure out and listen to you. It always annoys me a little bit, but it's a very funny scene. And the big hands, like the ridiculously large hands. I think that was the moment in the episode, in the film, that really sold me on this as an idea. Like, oh, this is hilarious. They're going to do big hands with the big tongue, and I'm going to love it. All right, hilarious, brilliant.
Uhura.
Kirk, what are you doing?
Transmission from the Klingon prison planet. What exactly?
My God, what's wrong with your hands?
Look, who is responsible for the Klingon attack, and was it slip wrong you?
Was the ship what?
What's happening in my mouth?
You got numb tongue?
Numb tongue?
I can fix that.
Was the ship what?
Romulan.
What?
Romulan.
Romulan.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought this was a great scene and a nice pick where you're trying to speak, but the words just won't come out because you can't move the muscles properly.
Oh my God. I love this. I think we talked about in episode 150 that Star Trek 2009 is the most picked episode on TrekRanks. And I don't think we've ever talked about this scene. Oh my God. It's so... This is one of those moments where it's like, I get, if you don't like it and you don't get on board and you don't like the fun of this, I don't know what to tell you. I get it. I mean, you can like what you like and dislike what you dislike, but this is so much fun. This is one of those moments where it's like, I understand the tone and what they're going for with this movie, this reboot, these characters. So much fun, so brilliantly weaved into the story as a normal thing, but adding all this extra obstacles that you've got to overcome. With Kirk communicating. It's brilliant. So good. So smart. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I've always thought of this scene previously as being kind of like, I mean, it is very funny, and I sort of thought of it, I suppose because of that, didn't really kind of like take it seriously.
Like frivolous?
But yeah, but actually, I mean, you know, Ross has reminded me that actually, you know, it's a really urgent situation that they're in.
Right.
And Kirk really needs to communicate. It's really important. So it's kind of like simultaneously funny and serious. And I think you made me appreciate it a bit more.
And it all just starts with this brilliant move by Bones to get Kirk on the Enterprise. I mean, again, that works. That makes sense. That's logical. It really, the whole thing just flows and connects. I love it.
It's good.
Okay, let's go to Michael's Soup Round pick. Connect some Trek, Michael.
Okay, Soup Round. 5 words. Do you like Sherlock Holmes? Hashtag, can you skin bunny corns? So, obviously, it can only be one episode.
Yeah.
Picard Season 1, Episode 7, Nepenthe. The connection here, the random connection that I made, is the conversation between Kestra and Soji at the shower.
Yeah.
Where Kestra says, can you play the violin? No. Do you like Sherlock Holmes? I guess so. Can you run super fast, jump really high, and bend steel with your hands? Turns out, yes, I can. Weird. Tell me about it. Wait, why would Data want to make an android with mucus and saliva? Well, he was always trying to be more human. He could do all these amazing things, but all he ever really wanted to do was, like, have dreams and tell jokes and, like, learn how to ballroom dance. So,
Michael, I get emotional when I watch that scene, and I get emotional just hearing you read it. Because I love this moment. It's all
I got a bit emotional
great.
too.
I love this moment. Go, sorry.
So Data, I mean, he haunts Picard throughout the season. In a way, he kind of haunts the season itself. Even now, like 2020, this episode came out. We keep learning more about Data. We learn how much his friends loved him, so that even Kestra is fascinated by him, and she was born after he died. We learn that he loved Picard, and that scene makes me tear up. And that scene from Broken Pieces where Soji just says, he loved you. And in the season finale, Data teaches Picard about the meaning of life. He teaches Picard about the meaning of life and death. Their positions are reversed. Data is a human, Picard is a synth, and both of them are still utterly human. And in Nepenthe, Soji's kind of the opposite, because she's just learned that she's not human. She's not real in Narek's rather sort of callous terminology. And so she has to start reconstructing her identity. And as a result, in the end, she learns that, like everyone else in Star Trek, really, she's still human after all. Because everybody's human, as Kirk insulted Spock by saying once. And that's really, you know, that's my prime directive, and that really kind of almost the message of Star Trek, really, for me. Certainly the message of Picard Season 1, that everybody's human.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know?
I mean, this is a character becoming more than they thought they could be and evolving further. I love the Data connection to Soji here. Oh my God, this is so good. Nepenthe's all-time great Trek. All those moments with Kestra and Soji are just incredible. Ross, what's your take here?
I think this is an absolutely epic pick. I mean, this is enormous. And I have to say, the way you've weaved this thread together, Michael, is really, really good. Yeah. It's very, like as you kept speaking, I was like, God, this is excellent. I absolutely loved how you're bringing it all together. And the scenes with Kestra and Soji are hilarious. But they are also really heartfelt. And it's nice to hear how it actually links in. You know, and also, as you were talking, you said about Picard being the synth and Data being the human. And I hadn't thought of that before. But you're right, they turned that around, didn't they, at the very end?
Yeah.
That's really, actually, it makes me think I want to go back and watch that again with that in mind.
But they're both still human. Picard may have become a synth, but he's still a human being.
Yeah.
So, you know, in all the ways that matter, both Picard and Data, they're both human. You know, but it's just that reversal of, in TNG, Picard spends so much time teaching Data about humanity, you know, and in this, it's like Data teaching Picard something.
Amazing.
I like
Okay.
it. That's good.
This is going extremely well halfway through Connective Trek. I am loving this. Okay, let's close out round 3 with my next connection. 5 words and a hashtag. Perfect Loxana reactions ×2 hashtag VIP passenger. This is TNG season 2 episode Manhunt. And so we talked about Ren T. Brown before. He played Kolar in Prophecy. So your first thought on this, when I say who he is, you're going to go, what? That's a nothing role. So he's only in it for like 30 seconds. He has one line, but his performance is amazing. And not only, a lot of times actors with just like one line in Star Trek aren't that good, right? A lot of, you get not the best deliveries. This guy crushes it with his one line. So here he is. He is in one scene at the beginning. He is the shuttle transport pilot bringing Loxana to the Enterprise when she's crawling all over him, being super rude. And he's got one line, and it's just this annoying eye roll as she literally pushes him out of the way. He's like, Enterprise, I have a passenger, a VIP passenger who I'm ordered to. Oh, let me talk to them. I'm sure I'm more articulate than that. Loxana pushing away past him. This is Ren T. Brown, shuttle conductor, who also played Kolar in Prophecy. And I love this actor. And I'm telling you, when you rewatch this, you'll see this guy's really good actor in this 30-second role. I love it.
On screen, Captain.
Starship Enterprise, come in.
We have you on viewer, pilot.
Enterprise, I have a passenger. A VIP passenger who I'm ordered
to... Oh, let me talk to them. I'm sure I'm more articulate than that.
Mother.
Captain, we are receiving Starfleet orders granting a Loxana
Troy, a daughter of the 5th house, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z.
Full ambassadorial status, sir.
So Ren T. Brown has an amazing reaction to Loxana, only to be matched later in the episode by another amazing reaction to Loxana Troy, daughter of the 5th house, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z. And that is, of course, Rex, the holographic bartender, played by Rod Arentz. I'm as jumpy as Haircut Lipinski trying to land on a fraction. I have no idea what that line means, but Rod Arentz says it. He has a great performance.
I'm as jumpy as Haircut Lipinski trying to land on a fraction.
Sorry to bother you, Captain.
Captain?
Call me Dix.
Sorry to bother you, Dix, but our 2 passengers have awakened.
And I love the way he interacts with Dix, and he cares about him, and he's comes across as though he's great at running his business. And when Loxana shows up, he is legitimately into her. I love this performance. He's all about it. So that is Rod Arentz, who played one other character in Star Trek. And it's another super impactful one. And I will tell you about Rod Arentz's other performance in my next pick. So here we are. We're connecting some Trek. Ross, what's your take here on Ren T. Brown and Rod Arentz?
Okay, so full disclosure, I do not remember Ren T. Brown. I can't even picture him in this episode. So I'm going to have to go back.
If you remember, they're picking up ambassadors, and all of a sudden Loxana appears on the view screen, crawling over this shuttle conductor. Anyway, when you see it,
I'll go back and have a look. I remember the bar scenes. I remember all that. I honestly thought okay, so he's picked Alex One and Troy episode, so he's going to link it to the computer or to number one. But no, we're very different. You threw me a curveball there with Rex.
Nothing but deep cuts here with Rex. Okay. Michael, any take on this? I know it's hard for you guys to kind of react without having the full picture, but
yeah, I can actually vaguely remember his face because recently I was like looking through the Trek Core screen caps of TNG.
Yeah.
And I actually saw it. I can really picture really clearly Loxana like leaning over him and him just looking like, as you say, eye rolling.
He's got the best eye roll.
Yeah. The connection between him and the previous episode that you picked, Prophecy, is just amazing. I just would never have known. And I love Rex. I think I love those scenes on the holodeck, the Dixon Hill scenes in there. Actually love the episode. I think it's really, really good.
It's really
fun.
Understated, good episode.
The scenes in Picard's quarters where he's trying to get Data to bore.
Right.
It's the same episode, isn't it? Data's boring Roxana and stuff.
Yep, because she's invited him to the thing.
Yeah.
I should have.
So good.
This should have come up in Quietest Trek episodes. It didn't come up at all. This would have been a good fit for that. So, all right. I'm loving my connections. I had the two Klingons together, and now we got two characters who are both reacting to Loxana Troy. Okay.
All right.
Let's go to round 2. Ross, what do you got?
Okay. So now we've got the words out. You have got to understand the words. So, destructive construct obstructs linguistic instructions.
Oh, no.
Hashtag, right, the hashtag is a tough one for me. Hashtag Flangenhole Jack Clough. Hashtag do you speak Klingon? And this is Prodigy Supernova Part 1, where the construct absolutely destroys all of the universal translator functions, and suddenly the crew of the Protostar and of course all the crew in the entire fleet can no longer communicate with each other, and it's only Gwendala's sort of amazing linguistic ability, which has just been pushed and pushed all the way through the season. It comes to the fore and assists in absolutely saving the day. Like the idea that we're going to reach out to our allies and they're going to be the first person who comes up as an angry looking Klingon, but they are going to help because it's Starfleet, and Starfleet will always come to help you. I thought it was great. I love the fact that language sort of saves the day. For the minute saves the day, and then there's another problem. But I love the fact that language and understanding language sort of helps solve that problem. And she's got all those intrinsic skills which she can just throw out there. And this was a hard one for me to pick because there are so many other good examples of this exact thing.
Oh, really?
We'll talk about later on.
That's interesting because when you pick, as soon as you did your 5 words, I was like, this is the most obvious pick. This is brilliant of connecting it to Prodigy because you've got that. It's part of the theme of the whole season. But that's amazing. You had other options.
Yes, of taking the time to learn a language and to understand it, and for that to be the thing that saves you. Cool. But we can talk about that later on the other ones.
Okay, that is so cool. I love this pick. I love Prodigy. I love the living construct and the whole theme. I just love the whole setup for this season that they can't talk to each other. Right? That's the theme. They can't. And how do you solve that?
And it came back to it. It started off like that, and then they come back to it again.
Right, because they start off, you can't talk because they're all they're all. That's what the diviner had set it up on Tars Lamora. It's really, really deep stuff for quote unquote a kids show, which it's not.
It really is.
It's really, really good. Supernova Part 1 and the living construct and this theme. Michael, any take?
I love it. I'm really looking forward to seeing this again because I rewatched the first half of season 1 before the second half showed. I've yet to rewatch the second half, and I really want to watch the whole thing now in its turn. And you're right. I hadn't thought of it before that it's the same theme running through the series about not being able to communicate.
Yes, God, that's the entire thing, isn't it?
Yeah, first of all, not being physically able to communicate because no universal translator, but also now it's actually dangerous to communicate. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's wonderful. I also think it's wonderful how you're building this up logically, step by step through, like different stages of being able to communicate. I think that's brilliant. And you've reminded me of an episode from Discovery as well, where it involved the universal translator.
Yeah.
So it does happen, and it happens a lot, but Prodigy's done it in a new way, and I just think it's great. I love it.
Yeah, and the Oval of
Oval for Karen.
That was my first thought for this because I did like it.
Of course,
when Saru is like the master, like he understands 98 languages or something, and he's just like the master of it and can just get through. But also the fact that they did it in Prodigy as well. You hear everyone speaking their own language, but in in Discovery, you hear all sorts of languages, like languages you haven't heard on Star Trek before, and it's nice to like listen out and hear all those differences. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And that's one of the first times that's ever been displayed that way on Star Trek. Really cool.
Yeah.
In Discovery. Great stuff. Okay, amazing. Michael, connect us to your number 2 pick.
Okay, 5 words. I fucking love this episode. Hashtag Chef gets the face at last. I've done it. I've gone for Enterprise Season 4, Episode 22. These are the voyages.
I love it. It took me a second to process that.
No wrong answers. So I'll say it again. I fucking love this episode.
It's great.
I recognize that it's complicated narratively. It's just so full of wonderful scenes that I just love watching it. The connection here is just really, really random, and that's Riker's cooking. So that's the connection with Pensei.
That ain't random. That's a great. I'm sitting there going, "What's the connection?" It's a fantastic connection. Riker's cooking, the chef. Good.
I haven't picked the episode for that reason. I picked it for 2 different scenes.
Yep.
The first is when T'Pol is in Trip's quarters and she's packing his things, and she has this moving conversation with Archer about bereavement. And I know they're holograms. Yeah, everybody knows they're holograms. I know it's a problem with the episode and all that. But it's so true to life that it's so true to those characters that I firmly believe, or choose to believe, that it actually happened like that.
Of course.
And it's Star Trek, so if transporters are possible, which they're not, then, this can be possible too. So, T'Pol says, talking about her mother, she says, Trip told me as the years went by that I would miss her less, but he was wrong because I found myself missing her more. Why would he tell me that? And Archer says, time heals all wounds, but absence makes the heart grow fonder. I guess it's a little tricky. Emotions have a way of contradicting themselves. And T'Pol replies, just absolutely heartbreaking. Honestly, Jolene, you break my heart so often. You're so brilliant. She just says, and you wonder why we suppress them. And the second scene is Archer and T'Pol's hug backstage before his speech, where I don't think they even are holograms because neither Riker or Troy are actually there in that scene. She just turns to him and says, you look very heroic. And Archer rushes back and he spontaneously gives her this platonic, heartfelt hug. And I know that people say that this is a bad finale for Enterprise, but there's one sense in which it's a really good finale, and that's this scene, because it perfectly bookends Broken Bow. Because almost the first words that Archer says to T'Pol are about how much he'd like to physically assault her. And that's the whole arc of Enterprise right there. Both the 2 characters, not only that, but their entire species become more than they ever could have imagined at the start of the series.
Yeah.
T'Pol and Archer, T'Pol and Trip, humans and Vulcans, old enemies become friends and allies, Tellarites, the Andorians, even the Xindi. And you end with, the beginning of the Federation. So it's on a macro scale there. It's not just a character. It's everyone.
Fantastic. Oh my God.
You're knocking it out of the park with these, Michael.
I know.
They're really good.
So good. I'm speechless. I mean, listen, I defend this episode. I get it. The finale, just from the basics of, you would rather it be just a centered, focused story on just the Enterprise crew. But that doesn't really bother me. I get why it would bother some people. But I always say, if it was just a standalone episode in the middle of the season, people would love this episode. There's no doubt in my mind. And then there's the Trip death part, but we won't get into that. Yes, this is so good. Michael, Ross, any quick take?
Yeah, I mean, you've weaved again connection into connection into connection. So it's not just the connection to the episode, but that the episode is about the connections and how they grow and grow and grow. It's very clever, very cleverly done. And also, if it makes you feel better, I think on my first ever TrekRanks, this was my number 1 pick.
Was it? What episode was that?
I think that was Shapes.
Oh,
Abstract Shapes.
Okay, all right.
This is my number 1 pick. Was this episode and the holodeck grids.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
I love it.
I remember that. Yeah.
I always remember picking Square from that with Big Fontaine, a square. I love it. Amazing. Okay, Connective Trek, and we're connected back to top 5 shapes on whatever episode that was, like 60 something. Okay, let's go. All right, let's close out round 2 with my pick. So we talked about Rod Arentz. Here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. Kill Tedrin, hold the genocide. Hashtag uh-oh. And this is Voyager Season 4, Episode 23, Living Witness. So I know I'm going to try and talk you through this. The Baskins and the Kyrians, they all kind of run together. A lot of the characters are they all kind of look the same a little bit. So I'm going to try and walk you through this. Rod Arentz's other role in Trek, he played the Vaskin ambassador Daleth. And he's like the main guy. He was on the bridge with Voyager. He's the first one negotiating with Voyager, at least according to the distorted history told by the Kyrians. And he offers them the location of a wormhole that they can, help them get rid of the Kyrians and Tedrin, and all hell breaks loose from there. So their makeup's pretty extensive, and he's got like sweeping white hair. It's a really impressive performance and a heavy prosthetic, and and the big white wig. It is impossible to recognize this guy as the guy who played Rex. Absolutely unbelievable that they're the same. He's in a bunch of scenes, so he really kind of sets the tone for the Baskins. Rex, the bartender, is the Vaskin ambassador. Okay, so the connection here to my final pick is twofold. We have 2 actors playing right alongside Daleth who have a connection to another episode of Trek that I'm going to do in my last pick. I'm going to hold all of that. I'm not going to tell you who they are until that pick. So there we go. Daleth, Vaskin, Rod Arentz. Ross, what's your take on this one?
And see, I don't know. Like, I remember the episode. I remember the Vaskins. I remember the Kyrians. But this guy, I don't remember this guy. I'm going to see him every time I look at him and think, oh, it's Rex. And now I'm going to know. Well, I'm going to have to look and make sure I recognize him if he's wearing so much makeup.
It is a tough one to call out.
I can't believe I didn't know this. I can't believe I didn't already know all these connections existed.
Oh, my God. I didn't know this until I was researching. Well, some of these I knew, but many I did not.
Do these guys like go to conventions and they have their 2 photos up either side, Rex and
Vaskin Ambassador Daleth.
Yeah, just up next to each other. You're like, oh, it's these 2. I wonder which card I'll get them to sign. Which one of those 2 I'm going to get to do? It really is amazing. I feel like I'm learning, and of course, an amazing episode.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Michael, any quick take on Rex as the Vaskin ambassador?
Again, I would never have known. I mean, I can picture Rex so clearly in my mind's eye.
Right. Yeah.
I cannot picture this guy at all.
It's funny how popular this episode is and how well known it is, but it's kind of weird that the villains are a little bit nondescript with the Kyrians and the Vaskins kind of together. Like, which ones are the Vaskins? Which ones are the Kyrians? That's, at least for me, that's always kind of been the case.
I mean, maybe that's kind of the point, that they are really so similar.
Yeah.
But I also think this episode is so good, and it's just like so relevant now. I don't want to get on political soapbox or anything, but when you think of now how, people are trying to erase Black history and queer history and things like that.
For sure.
But I find it a painful episode to watch just because it's upsetting seeing the Voyager characters misrepresented. So, in that way, it's just kind of like, it's just really upsetting. But I think that's partly because it is so relevant, because it does happen in the real world.
It's definitely a relevant pick. Also, I could see it fitting into your list too, and kind of the way the characters evolving beyond. But anyway, okay, let's go to round 1. We're going to close out our Connective Trek. Ross, connect us to your final pick.
Begin round 1.
Okay, so once all of the chain has been forged, somebody's thought of what to say. They have said it. You've understood it as words in your language. Then you need to understand the meaning of those words. Okay? So 5 words. Understanding idioms, piece of cake. Hashtag glass jaw. And now I'm taking it right back to the step to my first pick. This is Deep Space Nine's Captive Pursuit.
Oh.
And there is a scene where O'Brien and Tosk are talking about repairing Tosk's ship. And O'Brien says, it's a piece of cake. And Tosk says, piece of cake? And O'Brien says, it's an old Earth expression. It means it'll be easy to fix.
Yes, the Arvanodes convert space matter into fuel.
Ah, gotcha. Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. Ram scoop. Arvanodes.
No, a piece of cake. It's an old human expression. It means they'll be easy to fix.
They will be easy to fix?
Sure. Yeah. We'll just get my crew to remove your Arvanodes, then we'll take them over the replicator center and make new ones.
Piece of cake.
And then, and this really happened to me. Later, I was watching this with my wife, and we were watching it, and she fell asleep on the settee, and she woke up just as O'Brien punches the hunter, and the hunter goes down in one, and O'Brien says, glass jaw, he's out like a light. And my wife said, the aliens had glass jaws. And I said, no, it's an old Earth expression. It means he's easy to knock out. And I found it very funny, but only people who really like Star Trek are interested in that tale.
Oh my God, it's so good. And I could just picture the piece of cake. Oh, so good. So good.
So we've gone through the entire speech chain, looking at all the ways the speech can be broken down, and the different examples that Star Trek has offered over the years of how that can work.
Man, that's such a great pick. When you started your 5 words and hashtag, I was thinking Darmok. But this
honestly, and that was my first choice. This is it's a very late addition.
This is way better because it's a deeper cut and it's more relative to general understanding as opposed, because in Darmok it's the whole of language that you're not,
you need the whole thing.
Yeah, this is genius. I love it. Michael, any take on Captive Pursuit and this final connection?
Yeah, again, I think season 1 DS9 is like super underrated. I just think there's so many really good episodes in this. And what you're describing, there are lots of moments like that in Star Trek, aren't there? There's like I think it's it might even be in All Good Things when
I know exactly what you're going to say.
When he's in the past timeline and Data says about lighting the midnight petroleum or something. It's just
yeah,
because he didn't know what the idiom was, So,
it's O'Brien again explaining what the idiom is to Data in that scene.
Exactly, and even sometimes when some characters, what they're saying is actually not quite different from how we would say it. It's only slightly different. Like in Picard season 2, when Seven says, we'd like to capture an image, and Raffi says, she means take a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
She's kind of almost got it, but not quite, right? It's just so
there's also Data's Day where he says, pursuing an untamed ornithoid without cause.
Yes.
for wild goose chase, right? Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. That's so good.
Yeah, Data's a rich vein of those. He's very good at that.
Brilliant. And you didn't have to go there. You went with Tosk and Captive Pursuit. I love it. Okay, Michael, let's go to you. Connect your final track.
Okay, I might cry. No, I won't cry. Don't worry. But
then that means I might cry.
It's very personal to me. 5 words. I'm not really a person. #liar. It's Short Treks, Season 1, Episode 2, Calypso.
Yep.
One of my favorite Star Trek episodes of all time. And I really mean that. It's in my top 10 out of 873, did you say, Jim?
Out of 873. Yep.
Yeah.
It's right there. It was
the random connection here. Can't get much more random than this. It just goes back to that scene in Trip's quarters in These Are the Voyages, when T'Pol picks up Trip's action figure of Frankenstein's creature, and she just sort of stares at it and like with this expression that I can't even describe. And that's it. Trip loves old movies. Zora loves old movies.
That's such a nice connection.
Oh, thank you. Oh God, where do I start with Zora? Like I said, This was my number one pick from the start. It actually determined my prime directive, not the other way around. And Annabelle Wallis can break my heart. She can make me laugh. It's just voice acting. But she expresses humor, sadness, love, playfulness, joy, heartbreak. She's a fully rounded character in 18 minutes of Star Trek.
Incredible.
For me, like, the most human thing that she does in this episode, even more than falling in love, is when she shows Craft funny face for the first time and she says, "This is my favorite." And she says it with so much kind of like love and passion, you know? And as Fred Astaire is singing Gershwin, she's like humming along to it blissfully. It's just wonderful. And the whole concept of Zora is the most Star Trek thing in the world. It's just like, in retrospect, I think, like, how did it take them 50 years to get to Zora? Because she's a hero ship that's literally a character. The USS Discovery, NCC 1031. She falls in love.
Yeah, they teased it a little bit in some of the episodes, but you're right. It's so, but it's such a great, I mean, I was about to say, it's a great evolution, which is kind of your whole theme.
And at the end, in the final scene, when they're saying goodbye, Kraft says to her, "You reminded me what it means to be human." So superhuman, supercomputer rather.
Yeah.
I know she's a bit more than that technically, but she's a supercomputer reminding a human character what it is to be human. And that's what all of this is. That's what my prime directive is. That's what I think Star Trek is. You know, I know it's a Trek cliche to say it, but the vast majority of alien races we meet, they're really just ways of exploring humanity. The most ubiquitous theme in Star Trek.
Brilliant. Ross, any take?
Yeah, I mean, this is your links have just been so solid and
so good.
And the theme of like ongoing, it's been really touching actually to listen to you talk about it so sort of eloquently. It's been really nice to hear. The episode itself is an absolute phenomenon, and I think we're sort of shortchanged on short treks. Really, where are they?
Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to have wonderful to have a real anthology series? You know, just like short treks. You know, because,
yeah, I mean that first season, 2 of them were just absolute bangers, just so good.
Yeah, we talked about this on a recent episode. I get it, and I want them to, but then you think there's 5 series in production, so you kind of get the
you don't need the filler. You don't need the filler.
It would take. It's kind of like extra work, and is it really worth it in terms of what they're doing from a business side? Probably not, but I get it. I think we'll see them again. I think at some point they will reemerge.
Good.
Amazing. Okay.
I like the short film.
I'm just going to throw out, by the way, your guys' lists are incredible. They were both fantastic, both super personal and heartfelt and deeply emotional. And then there's my list, just like, hey, it's Star Trek trivia time with Jim, because that's all I ever do.
It's amazing.
Your list is solid, and now I feel like these episodes have a
Oh.
genuine connection. Like,
so good.
I'm going to see these guys.
Nope. I'm ripping myself,
amazing
and I
trivia as
deserve
well.
it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So before I reveal my final Connective Trek episode, here is the main actor and character from Living Witness who acted alongside the guy who played Rex from Manhunt. So I'm going to explain him. So his name is Craig Richard Nelson, not to be confused with Craig T. Nelson. His character was another Vaskin. So he played the Vaskin Arbiter, who is in one scene at the end. And he's the guy commenting when they're kind of having their final come to Jesus moment. And they're kind of learning that the history is not the history. And he's commenting on the Doctor's adjusted version of what happened. And he's arguing with the female Kyrian arbitrator.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Quarren Museum historian. And he's the one who's really saying, oh, so now we're really learning who the instigator in this 700-year-old war is. So again, he's another Vaskin, just like, what's his name? What's his name? Rod Arentz. I can't even remember the guy's name. So he's another Vaskin arbiter, kind of nondescript aliens. Anyway, so this Vaskin arbiter, played by Craig Richard Nelson, looks nothing like the character I'm going to connect him to, who happens to be another arbiter. And this one is the main Tanugan security officer, Crag, who's trying to decide if Riker should stand trial for murder in a matter of perspective, which is my pick. And my 5 words in a hashtag, fair arbiter in 2 quadrants, hashtag, a matter of arbitrating. It's a matter of perspective. Season 3. So this performance from Nelson as Crag, now he's very memorable. Everybody knows who this guy is. He's like the lawyer guy, the police chief, who's come in to say, we're going to arrest Riker. We're going to put him on trial. And so they decide to have a trial in the holodeck on the Enterprise to kind of see if where they go. So great performance from him. Really, really very, very memorable in an interesting episode that plays around with a lot of perspectives and the holodecks. Very hard for me to believe those were the same actors when I kind of stumbled on this. I think I knew it a long time ago, but kind of cool. So that's the main connection. Here's one more bonus connection from these 2 episodes, just to cap it all off, because I love this one. So from Living Witness, there's another Vaskin, another guy with the full prosthetic. He's a young Vaskin. He's the main protester. So he was the guy who was challenging the history being taught by the Kyrians at the museum. Okay. And he's a young guy, and he's just kind of angry, and he's spouting off, saying, "You guys blame us for everything." And at the end of the episode, he's the guy leading the riot in the museum. So this actor is named Morgan Margolis. And the connection here is that Morgan Margolis is the son of the great Mark Margolis, who is, of course, Dr. Nell Apgar. I'm not the fool you take me for.
I'm not the fool you take me for.
In a matter of perspective. Awesome connection. And of course, Mark Margolis is best known as Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Ding, 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 ding,
yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ese es un Salamanca.
Has aphasia.
Has aphasia, right. In Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Brilliant. He does. What a connection. Back to the first pick. It's incredible. So Dr. Nell Apgar is the father of this guy. And those are all my connections. I'm done. Ross, Michael.
Oh, my. Right. So, first of all, the 5 episodes you've listed, they go all over the galaxy.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't know enough about the actors who play these characters, because the characters themselves are very, very memorable. And it's weird to me that some characters and the actors just, you find out so much about. And some characters, like the guy who plays Dr. Apgar, that's a big character, like really recognizable, really memorable. But but you don't know that much about it. In fact, I recognized him when he was on Breaking Bad.
But a lot of people, everybody pretty much recognizes them. Those 2, right? You can make that connection.
But you don't know much else about him, do you? He's not right. Like a big guy we always hear about at conventions, or always get updates.
Classic character.
Star Trek magazines. Yeah. It's great. I'm loving the fact. I feel like I've really learned more about Star Trek. And actually, when we go through the next list and we go through our secondary systems, you'll see why I'm interested in the way your list worked.
I love it. Okay, Michael, any last take on this? Inane trivia that I'm relaying here.
It's amazing trivia. I mean, I would never have connected these people. It's partly because prosthetics. People look different and stuff, but it's amazing how much Trek itself is connected by all these different actors, and I can see. I love your hashtag, by the way. Matter of arbitration.
It's good.
And I love the fact that all 3 of our prime directives really are just like so completely different. I mean, Connective Trek. Different. I mean, as you said, Connective Trek can mean anything, almost. And so we've come up with 3 completely different things, and.
Just like we wrote it up and explained to people really clearly at the beginning of the episode. Exactly. Amazing.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
All right, let's get into some secondary systems, because we'll try to do this quick, but I've got a couple more I'm going to relay. So Ross, tell us a little bit about your kind of other angles you were taking.
So first of all, I've got some secondary systems for the whole language thing first. So like episodes that I loved or wanted to talk about. So Enterprise's Dawn. I like the way they try and communicate. There's no communication between the characters. There's a breakdown there. Memento Mori, where they learn the language. They take it all down. I have some issues with that, with the way the language works, because it's not precisely accurate. It seems to revert back to English at some point. So I was a bit skeptical there. Of course, Darmok was high up on my list for ages, but I wanted to push it a bit further. All Good Things and the Midnight Petroleum. So they're the language ones I wanted to talk about.
Well, just on Memento Mori, obviously the notepad he's writing in has a universal translator built inside the page. The paper.
I didn't really, of course.
Of course. Anyway, keep going.
The paper would in the future.
The paper just makes the adjustment.
No, I should know that.
I thought that was obvious for everyone.
Do you know what? Now I think about it, I feel so silly. So other things that I really thought about listing. So one of the things I've always loved are how the Klingons have just transformed across the franchise.
Right.
And I thought about picking episodes where their transformation was really apparent or discussed.
That would have been a great theme.
I actually had a list here. So Enterprise's Divergence, The Motion Picture, The Trouble with Tribbles, Vulcan Hello, and Point of Light. Really show how they all vary and how we touch base and how it's happened across 50 years, and we as a fandom have responded to it massively by being just so interested in it, which I really liked. I did a randoms connection through Memory Alpha. So I started off with random Memory Alpha. First episode that came up was Darmok. This is random.
Seriously?
And from there, I went to Kaishon, His Eyes Open, because of the Talarian connection. Yep. And then I went to the Infinite Vulcan, because of the connection with
oh my god, I love this.
Oh yes.
Then I got to the Wrath of Khan because of Chekhov. Chekhov wasn't in the Infinite Vulcan, but he wrote the Infinite Vulcan.
Oh god, yes.
And then
I was like, what's the connection? Of course it is Walter.
But he was in the Wrath of Khan. But Khan remembered him from an episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. I guess
that's amazing.
We're way ahead of you, man.
And then from Wrath of Khan, I went to Into Darkness. Obviously, an obvious connection there.
Yep. Oh, that would have been amazing.
And then this is the list I worked on the most.
Okay.
And it is very akin to your list that you've written. So this is actors who've directed episodes with actors who directed episodes.
Yes. Okay. I love it. That would be a great way to do it.
Multiple chains of where this could go.
There's a lot of ways.
There's a lot. But I mean, things that I didn't know was LeVar Burton directed Things Past.
Yeah.
Amazing. Andrew Robinson directs Roxanne Dawson in Blood Fever.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Good.
Dawson directs Tim Russ in Riddles. LeVar Burton directs Avery Brooks in Things Past. Avery Brooks directs Robinson in The Dogs of War. Robinson directs Roxanne Dawson in Blood Fever. Dawson directs Tim Russ in Riddles. Russ directs Picardo in Living Witness. And then I had other ones. Frakes directs Stewart in Stardust City.
You could keep going on that one. You could go
there's hundreds.
Oh,
but there's one which is just out there which I didn't know. Right, you'll like this one. This links right back to yours. So, the director of Charlie X, right? Yeah. His name was Larry Dobkin, and he was Ambassador Kell from In the Mind's Eye. He directed Charlie X, and he was Ambassador Kell in The Mind's Eye.
Wait, is Ambassador Kell in The Mind's Eye the Klingon on the planet? No, he's not. No, he's the Klingon, the traitor, the Klingon traitor.
Yes,
who was selling the weapon. He was on the Enterprise and Oh my god, I love that actor.
Yes, I didn't know this
guy directed.
He directed Charlie X.
Holy shit!
I didn't know this. This is all stuff I was finding out.
I love that. I had no idea. Oh my god, this is crazy. Woo. Yeah, I'm blown away. Blown away. Okay, I'm speechless. Michael, do you have any quick ones?
Yes, I do. I thought of Star Trek Picard, the episodes 9 and 10 of season 2, Hide and Seek and Farewell, really because of what you said, Jim, in your Trek Core review about the Borg.
Oh yeah,
and how they're kind of like deconstructed and reconstructed in something better.
And the comparison to ICE here in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
What a cancerous debacle, terrible organization that is.
Exactly. Who would ever have thought that the Borg could be held up as a mirror to humanity and come out the better of the two?
Right.
I mean,
incredible.
I would have loved The Offspring from TNG, partly because like Lao's spontaneous experience of emotions is the result of a malfunction.
I thought that might come up on your list, but I like Nepenthe was better.
I would have loved to. Also, The Begotten from DS9, which is kind of, to me, that's similar to The Offspring.
Right.
Because through its death, the baby shapeshifter gives Odo a precious gift, which is also what Lao gives Data in at the end of The Offspring with the gift of her memories.
Mm-hmm.
Emergence from TNG is another variation on the ship becoming sentient, although it's an odd one because after it's given birth to that sort of whatever that life form is, it presumably just goes back to being the computer again, which obviously Zora doesn't. I perversely wanted to include Peanut Hamper.
And okay, well, let's go on to my picks.
Oh no, I want to hear about Peanut Hamper.
Peanut Hamper's kind of my prime directive, but in Terran TrekRanks. She's like the opposite of my prime directive.
She would be perfect for Terran TrekRanks.
Like,
for this.
And also, I love Peanut Hamper. I'm sorry, I love her. She's a sociopath, but she's the most entertaining sociopath I've seen on the screen. So
fair enough. That is fair.
And finally, Vija. Because
of course.
Just last week, my partner and I were watching the new 2022 remastered Director's Edition Blu-ray of the motion picture. And just towards the end, I suddenly thought, this fits my prime directive.
It sure does.
Yes.
You know, Spock says it, is this all that I am? Is there nothing more? Yeah. And of course, Vija discovers that there is something more.
Yeah. That's brilliant. He could have connected it to the Changeling.
Yep.
Same story.
Could have done. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear a word you said because Ambassador Kell directed fucking Charlie X.
Yeah, honestly, it blew me away because I went through the list on Memory Alpha. Like, who's directed episodes, which actors have done it?
Incredible. Okay, I'm going to go through. I know we're going long, everybody. Stay with us. I'm just going to rattle off a couple more here that are fun. So, my other list, I compiled 3 other full lists. So, Final Mission, actor Nick Tate played Durgo. He was also Liam Bilby in Honor Among the I never realized that. That one missed me somehow. But next to him, I guess somehow I missed him. So obviously it's the same actor because it's very clear, but somehow I just never made the connection. So then one of his henchmen is Kroll, Carlos Carrasco. He's the guy who got zapped with the thing on the side of his head. Yeah. He played Dagor from the House of Quark, the brother who was trying to steal Groka's house. Next to him was Kozak, who is the brother who died. That's John Lendl Bennett. So Kozak died. I think it was Kozak. Maybe I have those backwards. I don't know. This is amazing. So the guy Kozak from House of Quark, he played Gabriel Bell, the real Gabriel Bell. In past tense. Yeah. I had no idea. And this is my favorite. This is why I really wanted to go with this list. And then Bernardo Calvera was played by Al Rodrigo. He was one of the guards, the 2 guards that were kind of watching over and then taken hostage in past tense. Not the mean, gruffy one played by a legendary character actor whose name just jumped out of my head. But the other guy, Al Rodrigo. So Al Rodrigo's the actor. Bernardo Calvera's. He played Captain Durango in Moist Vessel from Lower Decks, which just blows my mind. So that second guard from past tense voiced Captain Captain Durango from Voice Vessel.
Oh my
I love
God.
that. Okay.
Actually, I think I remember. I
definitely tweeted about it. There was a few people like, holy crap, these two are the same actor. That's amazing, like 20 years apart. Okay, so then one last one. The Chase Klingon Nudak was played by John Cothran Jr. He played Greylick in The Shipment. So the Klingon from The Chase, the one who had to stay on board the Enterprise when his ship couldn't keep up, played Greylick, which blew my mind. Randy Oglesby.
They sort of look the same, even with all the makeup on. You can sort of see that.
I had no idea they were the same. Every time, I'm always surprised. Then from there, I didn't go with this list because I didn't want to use Randy Oglesby. He's too popular. He played Degra. Of course, that connects to the Shipment. But the one Randy Oglesby character that nobody remembers.
Oh, no. Hold on. He was the chorus guy.
Yes.
No,
that's not the one. People remember that. No, he was. Yes, but everybody remembers that. He played like 6 characters. The one that you will be shocked to hear, he played the captain, Trenna L, in Unexpected. The trip pregnancy episode. Yes.
Oh my God.
That alien in full prosthetics, the captain of that ship, that weird ship that Trip goes to, is Randy Oglesby playing Degra.
You're right. He looks the same when you think about it.
And then next to him, the woman engineer, Aline, on that weird ship that Trip goes to and gets pregnant, is played by Julianne Christie, who played Dexa, Neelix's girlfriend in Homestead.
Yeah.
That
right.
blew me away. That one I never knew. And then that leads...
my God.
Yeah, so then... and then
how do you not do this list? I feel like this list is amazing.
No. My other list was the best one. This is the second best one.
Oh, sorry.
This one has Oglesby. I can't do Oglesby. That would have been too obvious. Even though that Oglesby deep cut is massive. Okay, this is my favorite. I almost went with this because of this one. So one of the miners attacking the asteroid that Dexa and Neelix end up on was played by Christian R. Conrad, which takes us to Future's End and the immortal, silent, tough guy, hitman, and right-hand henchman to Henry Starling, Dunbar.
Oh my God.
And I just love that because Dunbar is like he's a big part of those episodes. He's like, Dunbar, do this, Dunbar, dude. He never says a word. He says Dunbar. And he played that.
He's the Mr. Hom of Future's End.
He is the Mr. Hom of Future's End.
Oh my God.
All right, we got to finish this off. That worked way better than I could have ever imagined. Super cool way to break down some Trek, but now it's time to get into our regeneration cycle. We're going to go through some stats and a quick recap of it.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Ross, run down your 5 really quick.
Okay. You think of what you want to say in DS9's Babel. You try. You can't speak in TOS The Menagerie. You can speak, but the words are all confused in Star Trek 2009. You hear the words, but you don't understand the language in Prodigy Supernova Part 1. And you understand the language, but you don't get the meaning in DS9's Captive Pursuit.
Incredible. Fantastic. So you spread it around. I think 2 Deep Space Nine, TOS, Kelvin Timeline, and Prodigy. Amazing.
And the DS9s are back to back.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because I knew they were early season 1. Amazing. Michael, your 5 really quick.
Yep, I've got Chrysalis, Deep Space Nine, with Serena learning to speak and express and enjoy life fully. Then there's TNG Birthright Part 1 with Data learning how to dream or experiencing dreams for the first time. Picard, Nepenthe, which is kind of also about Data as well.
Mm-hmm.
And how we keep learning more about him throughout season 1 of Picard, and also about Soji and ways in which he's similar and different to Data. Then Enterprise, these are the voyages, being really the growth not only of Archer and T'Pol and their friendship, but the growth between Vulcans and humans, and indeed through a lot of other civilizations and species in the series as well, leading up to the birth of the Federation. And finally, Short Trek's Calypso, in which a hero ship. We've learned for the first time in Star Trek that a hero ship really is a person, even though she says she's not.
Amazing. So you had 5 different incarnations in your Connective Trek, Deep Space Nine to TNG to Picard to Enterprise to short treks. Fantastic. Okay, my quick recap. I'm only going to mention the actors, not the characters. Here we go. My number 5 was Suddenly Human with Sherman Howard, who also appeared in Prophecy alongside Ren T. Brown. And then we saw Ren T. Brown in Manhunt, my third pick, who appeared alongside Rod Arentz. And then we saw Rod Arentz in my second pick, Living Witness. And in my final pick, A Matter of Perspective, we had 2 connections back to Living Witness, Mark Margolis and his son, Morgan Margolis, and then Craig Richard Nelson. Okay, so I had 3 from TNG and 2 from Voyager. So it felt like I was all over the place, but I was just basically flip-flopping I went TNG, Voyager, TNG, Voyager, TNG. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so the only stat we kept was the breakdown of series, and we spread it around. Amazing. No duplicates. We had 4 picks from a new era of Trek. So there's 1 Picard, 1 Short Treks, 1 Prodigy, and 1 Kelvin Timeline. And then from the Legacy era, 1 each from TOS and Enterprise, 2 from Voyager, 3 from Deep Space Nine, and 4 from TNG. That was way too much fun, you guys. But as always, we're going to initiate a temporal inversion now because it's time to hear from you.
Initiate temporal inversion.
Initiating.
And for this week's temporal inversion, we're going back to episode 144 in our top 5 Trek gambles. Got a cool list in from Justin Oser, who used to be on Twitter, but now he's over on Mastodon. TrekFan4747. His list was top 5 Trek gambles with Sisko's character. I love this. So this is all Sisko, all gambles. Confronting Picard about his wife's death in Emissary. And this is like production, like gambles, I think.
Yeah.
And then poisoning an entire planet in For the Uniform. Being an accessory to murder in The Pale Moonlight. He's half a prophet in Image in the Sand. And ascending to the Celestial Temple, What You Leave Behind. That is a fantastic list of 5 major gambles with Sisko's character from the production side. Incredible. He had 2 more secondary systems. Arresting Cassidy for working with the Maquis. And, oh my God, his last one, being willing to sacrifice his son in the Reckoning. Absolutely incredible stuff.
If this doesn't make you want to read the Sisko autobiography that's coming out,
oh my God,
I don't know what will.
Cannot wait to read that. That'll be a book I read. Yep.
What a life! What a life!
Incredible. Okay, those picks more than enough to cancel our temporal inversion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all your great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. So please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own narrative list of Connective Trek or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. Or you can just record it yourself and send me a DM. We can connect that way if that's easier. Hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we are starting a new Legacy series topic. So this is going to be so much fun. So we obviously did our underrated, our guilty pleasures, and our high concepts. So we're going to jump in again with a 5-part Legacy series. And this topic is going to focus for the next couple of years on the vibes of Star Trek. And by vibes is defined the atmosphere of a place as communicated to and felt by others. So we're going to do 5 of these shows focused individually on TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise. And the first one is going to be Voyager vibes. So Ross and Michael, if you had to make one TrekRanks episode pick for Voyager vibes, something in Voyager that you think defines the show's vibe, which again is the atmosphere of a place as communicated to and felt by others, what do you got? It can be whatever you want, but what gives you Voyager vibes? Ross.
Voyager vibes. It's got to be about journeys, it's got to be about traveling, constantly in motion.
Okay.
setting a destination and sort of never reaching for it, or setting a destination and reaching for it always, but always willing to take that detour if something interesting, necessary, or fantastic comes along. So I think it's traveling, it's journey. That's what gives me vibes. Is there an episode that sort of exemplifies that? An episode which really gets the travel going. I can't think of an exact episode. There's any episode where Janeway says, I think that's worth a detour. When Chakotay says, there's a class 3 stellar nursery.
Let's do the first one. I have the needle. There you go.
Yes, there you go. And she goes, that's worth a detour.
I love it. Okay, so Voyager vibes. What gives you Voyager vibes, Michael?
The first thing that just comes to mind, just emotionally, is Lost.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, Voyager has a lot of great episodes, but whenever I'm watching it, I think this is why, as I said, like I love the bits that connect with the Alpha Quadrant, because I just feel so lonely out there in the Delta Quadrant. And I know there's this wonderful sense of family there as well with the characters, but they're so far away from home, and it's kind of a painful feeling sometimes. But an episode, I'm going to go with the one that I mentioned earlier, and I'm
Pathfinder
myself because I can't remember the name. No, I can't remember the name. It was actually, that would be a good one in a way, because that is the.
It's kind of both. It's kind of what Ross said and what you said.
That is where those feelings of lostness suddenly, like, at least begin to vanish, because you've got connection. But I was also thinking of that one in season 1, the one with the micro wormhole and the Romulan guy.
Oh, yeah, that's Eye of the Needle. That's the one I just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that really kind of rubs it in, how close they were to getting home, but you know that there's going to be at least 7 years before they get there. So yeah, that's the feeling that series mostly gives me.
We're going to get deep into some Voyager, so that should be a fun one.
Channel closed. Reset. Subspace communications. Scrambler code Riker 1.
Okay, Scrambler code Riker 1 acknowledged. Let's close this episode out with a huge thanks to Ross Webster and Michael. It's awesome having you guys on. Incredible stuff. Any final Trek Scrambler codes either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Ross?
Yes, do look me up on Twitter at STRTRK1701 or my Snap Trek podcast, where we compare 2 episodes of Star Trek, also on Twitter. Give us a listen.
I forgot. I haven't even mentioned Snap Trek yet. My favorite. Michael, we need some new episodes, Ross. Sorry, no pressure.
I know.
Michael, thanks for coming on and putting such an awesome list together, man.
Thank you so much again, and I've really loved it. Love how all of our prime directives were so completely different. And I was going to give a heads up to Snap Trek myself, and I forgot, which was when I was talking about These Are the Voyages, and I thought, that is a podcast that discusses These Are the Voyages really well, because it's
that's right.
It's nuanced and it's unprejudiced and it's, it's
Wait,
great.
What'd you compare it against, Ross?
We compared it again.
The Pegasus.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously, the episode it links to. Yeah.
Stupid. All right. Dumb question. All right.
That's where Riker learned to cook, was in the events of the Pegasus.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everyone engaging with us here again on episode 154 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Wait, why would Data want to make an android with mucus and saliva?
Well, he was always trying to be more human. He could do all these amazing things, but all he ever really wanted to do was, have dreams and tell jokes and, learn how to ballroom dance.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Strike limits flame the dark true salt.
Please, Chief, take a seat.
Way link complete. Way link!
What's wrong with him?
He appears to be suffering from a form of aphasia. It's a perceptual dysfunction in which aural and visual stimuli are incorrectly processed by the brain. His actual thinking hasn't been affected, but he's incapable of expressing himself or understanding others.
Victory strike limits frosted wake. Simple hesitation.